Ventura County's picturesque landscape, historic architecture, and nearly perfect climate makes its coastal and inland valley communities an ideal location for residents who call this Southern California region home. More than 196,000 people 60 and older are currently living in Ventura County. Nationally, 1 in 4 people are living with a disability. 5.8 million Americans are living with a dementia-related disease. That number is expected to grow to nearly 14 million by 2050. By 2040, the population of people 60 and older living in Ventura County is expected to climb to more than 270,000. Are we prepared to meet their needs? Where are we falling short? The question has been asked. The time for a conversation is now. This is Bridging the Gap, Aging and Accessibility in Ventura County.
Yo soy María Delgadillo, nacida en Zapotlanejo, Jalisco. Yo entré aquí a Estados Unidos en 1972.
Casi siempre ando así. ¿Fría? ¿Tienes la presión baja?
Ahorita tengo 4 hijos, 3 hijos y una hija. Tenía más, pero Dios me quitó 2, allá los tiene. Yo no trabajé cuando llegué porque mi esposo no quería. Nomás él y mis hijos trabajaban. Ellos lo que ganaban me lo entregaban a mí y yo era la que me encargaba de lo que hacía falta en la casa y todo.
My name is Jacob Yes Nobergsten. I am 36 years old. My disability is cerebral palsy. It is caused by bad signals from my brain to my muscles. I think people assume that because of how I speak, I'm retarded. I think people assume that I'm not a person who they can form a romantic connection to. I'm not going to be a good quality partner in a life. Oftentimes I'll be at a party and there's a conversation going on and I'll try to join the conversation and the conversation stops. I have had people who I have tried to playfully flirt with laugh in my face and get up and leave.
For Jacob, what I've noticed as well is that they treat him more they treat him more like a child in some social situations where it's like, oh, that's so great that you did that, Jacob. An example would be like if he goes to a city council meeting and testifies on an issue as a professional person, they clap. And they don't clap for any of the other public speakers. Jacob's one of the most intelligent people I know. He has a master's degree. None of that's necessary, but just because of his speech, they automatically assume that he doesn't understand.
There was 2 teenagers, and when I got on the bus, they started to laugh and mock my face.
I I think that there's a lot of attitudinal barriers that people, including people with disabilities, have ingrained in them about other cultures. And unless we make an effort to try to change those, it's just going to continue.
George is diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called inclusion body myositis. It's an autoimmune disease that attacks his muscles and kills him. He was 37 when he was diagnosed. It was supposed to be rare and not hereditary or anything like that. So we just needed to make sure that we kept George safe. I think when George and I were dating, I've always liked him in high school. We were really good friends, and you know, years later, I saw him. We were out dancing, and he was there, and because George has such a great sense of humor, he's a character. He'll make you laugh, and he's just got this smile that is just awesome. You have a nice smile, George. What? You still have your smile. He got a tracheostomy in December of 2007, and he got a feeding tube, and January of 2008, he needed 24-hour care. And I became his caretaker. This is the part where I didn't understand when his muscle disease, I was just thinking physical. I wasn't thinking all the organs and stuff that have muscles that you need to breathe, and I didn't think about those things. I wasn't aware of having any nurses. So when I was his nurse, being at home taking care of him, I was running back and forth. You know, he needed suctioning. I had to go over there. Every time I would go lay in bed, I was running back and forth over him. Because most of the part is he was scared, and I was scared, and we didn't know what to be prepared for.
My name is Edie Brown. I knew at a very, very young age that I was different. My mother found out that I was gay about the age of 15. She took it pretty well, considering. I mean, there was a usual hysteria. What did I do? You know, why are you this way? And she seemed to think it was her fault. And at that point, I was still in high school, so I didn't come out publicly until after I got out of the service. I enlisted in the Air Force at the age of 18 plus 3 months.
And when was that?
Right out of high school, 1954. I was very comfortable in the Air Force. I was involved in a couple of the sporting teams, played basketball and softball. I had an outstanding job. I worked at base operations, tracking aircraft. I enjoyed the service. I was in the service for about 18 months, and the Office of Special Investigations called me in and wanted me to work undercover, spying on other women who they suspected were gay. And I refused that, and then later they came back and accused me of being gay, and eventually discharged me in June of '55.
Was it an honorable discharge?
No, it was not an honorable discharge. In fact, I'm right now in the process of trying to upgrade it.
Mi esposo murió en el 15 de septiembre de 1902, del 2002. Todo se me hizo más triste y más difícil para mí, porque mi esposo y yo duramos 60 años de casados.
She had said she feels really lonely living by herself. She still wants to be independent, but she feels lonely when someone's not here. So socialization-wise, she does go to a center Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And on Mondays and Fridays, she has one of her friends come over and they go out to eat. They'll have lunch. She said that friend is now like her family, and she has things to look forward to. So I think that really helps with their health, keeping them healthy and going and wanting to keep going, taking their pills. Some of them will stop if they're not feeling great. Wanting to keep going to doctor's appointments, some of them stop as well when they feel really depressed. So I think it helps keep depression at bay.
Part of my job is showing Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Elizabeth counties. I take deep breaths, or if I'm feeling healthy, I walk to work. I try to work 3 or 4 days a week. It's very inconvenient to be stuck in a radius and to not be able to do my job to the fullest.
I think if we could just help Ventura County be have more of a universal transportation system, it would go a long way to helping with the accessibility, because you can have a physically accessible bus, but if someone has to get in and out and on new buses 3 or 4 times to get to where they're going, is it really as accessible as it can be?
If you have to go to Thousand Oaks, which are a lot of doctors at, you have to take 2 city rides. So the whole day can be 5-6 hours.
The real issue is, how can we figure out how to have transportation for someone to be able to get across the county in a reasonable amount of time? People with disabilities work too. We go to school too, and if I have a class or a job that I need to get to at 9 o'clock and I live in Simi and I work in Oxnard, what am I doing? You know, Dial-A-Ride's not going to come get me at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if there's buses at 4 o'clock in the morning, but that's literally what we're facing in order to be able to have gainful employment in another city within the same county if I don't drive.
When George got sick and he was having problems, we spent most of our time going back and forth to doctors. And that was it. Just going back and forth. We didn't have all those family plans because there was no vehicle to get them in. I hear people talk about all the time, you know, that want to rent to you, and you know, they're going to rent your house, and the first thing, well, what happens if he dies? What happens if you die? I don't think we actually got to the point of putting our money together as working full-time employees.
After I left the service, I had a really rough 10 years. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was mentally and emotionally in a bad place. So it wasn't until I was about 30 that I began to settle down. I was working all that time, but I jumped from, you know, job to job. I was doing all kinds of things. Then at age 30, I began to settle down, and I met Beverly when I was 40. We've been together ever since. We used to come out and demonstrate at City Hall every Valentine's Day because we felt we should be recognized as a married couple. We went to Canada in 2005 and married in British Columbia. That was about 3 years before California was legally able to recognize married couples.
She suffers from some serious knee pain, arthritis, and she's 92. And I had the couple of times that I've been here to her home, I've seen her use a small step stool, which is inappropriate for her, and also having to move it, which could be dangerous because if she moves it too far, she would just fall over.
Pues sí es importante porque yo en rato ya no puedo hacer cosas. Como ahorita estoy aquí sentada. Al pararme ya voy a batallar porque ya no, por mis piernas. Duro sentada 1 hora o 2 y ya no me puedo parar.
Her IHSS provider, which is here now, Josefina, that she's here from 8:30 to about 12:30 on the days that she doesn't go to the center. And she said that even if she got an extra hour or 2 every day, she'd feel more comfortable because she wouldn't feel rushed to maybe do the showering or feel like she could do more showering. She's scared to shower by herself. She's scared of falling. So she really wants someone here to help her with those types of activities. If she had more IHSS hours, she feels like she could do be more hygienic and just take more showers.
Our youngest was just about 12 months when he started walking at 12 months, and that's about the time George was diagnosed. They didn't get to do things. They didn't get to do anything like normal kids. They didn't have any friends because their schools were kind of far away. We didn't go out. We were home all the time. We didn't have a van or anything to get around.
Well, it was always awkward, particularly if you're involved in the medical field. I would go into the hospital and tell them I was married, and they would put me down as single because they wouldn't recognize the fact that I, in fact, was married.
I think the biggest obstacles for the LGBT plus aging community are basic and affordable health care, caregiving issues, financial insecurity, social isolation, and access to aging services. In our community, we have friends that have lived their whole life in the closet for fear of losing their job or fear of discrimination, and they've seen it and suffered it firsthand, so they've insulated themselves by hiding who they are. And that's happening now with doctors. They're an age, they don't change who they are now just because it's easier or more accepted to be a lesbian or a gay man or a transgender individual. Our history sort of pulls us along into old age, and those fears become more magnified the older we get.
Her not being able to speak English, she said that doctor's visits are pretty limiting. She doesn't really understand what they're telling her, and they can't understand her issues either, so that's difficult. She said going to the grocery store as well is a little bit difficult since she doesn't speak English. She doesn't know how much to pay or what they're asking her. She also doesn't really understand what sometimes she's buying since it's all in English, so that's been difficult.
Cerebral palsy basically stays the same. Some aspects of my disability might get worse, like my eyesight, but I don't know for sure.
So how do you prepare for when you're getting older? How are you and your doctors preparing for when your eyesight changes?
Actually, no one has talked to me about what happens when I get older disability-wise, and I think that's really interesting.
I worked every day with a lot of people. We had a social life, and George and I, we had plans to be a husband and wife. We never got that.
Oh, I can't reach you.
Are you cold? No, you're smart. I love you. That's the whole thing about staying home. You lose track of your days. Holidays don't mean anything, because you don't get a day off anyways, so they don't mean anything. I never knew what depression was, and I would never admit it. I am a strong woman, and I've always taken care of myself at a very young age, and so I see things in myself that I would never do before. And it just really bothers me. Day by day, that's what it is, day by day.